Okay. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, it's clear, bro.
Okay, thanks for the confirmation. Sorry, there is some technical issue from our side. There are a lot of registrations, but we couldn't inform everybody. So because of technical issue, but however, I will continue with the demo and will share the recording to them. And also I'll have another demo for them. Okay, so let's get started. So today we are going to cover DevOps with Azure Demo. So before I start off, let us actually, first of all, let me introduce about myself. I am Shankar. So I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I have done following certifications. Yeah, of course, there are few other certifications has to be added in the list. So I'm Azure Administrator certified, Solution Architect certified, Security Engineer certified, and Azure DevOps Engineer certified, and also SAP HANA certified, and WVD Azure Virtual Desktops certified. So this is about my profile, and currently I'm working as a solution architect for I would say as a consultant for a startup company. Okay, so this is about me, and can I have your introduction as well? So probably if you can tell about yourself and that would be great. Rajshekhar, do you want to introduce about yourself?
Yes, sir. This is article completed uh, TTech from Electrical and Electronic Engineering in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Nothing more to tell.
Okay, okay, right. Uh, okay, Nagaraju, I think I know about you, so should be fine. So let us
Yeah.
continue. So what we're going to cover in today's demo. So on a high level, if you see, we are going to understand IT architecture and software development life cycle, and we're going to see learn key Azure services, and then we are going to see gain some in-depth understanding of DevOps as a practice, and then we are going to see hands-on. So this is about complete course high level, not today's demo high level. So in this course, what you're going to learn on a high level, we are going to understand IT architecture, software development lifecycle. We are going to learn key Azure services such as virtual machine storage, networking. Um, yeah. So and then we are going to gain in-depth understanding of DevOps as a practice, and we are going to do some hands-on with the DevOps toolset on Azure Infra. So I'm going to explain about what are the various toolsets that we are going to cover in next slides. Yeah. So and then we are also going to do automation. So this is how these are the topics that we're going to cover in this course on a high level. I would say 10,000 feet level. So first of all, what is Azure DevOps? Let's leave about Azure DevOps. What is DevOps? So DevOps is actually so there is a statement from Donovan Brown. He's from Microsoft. He's someone who defined DevOps as he's the one who introduced DevOps within Microsoft. Okay, so what does he says? DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to the end users, not the product. So the usual definition will say it's a process. DevOps is a union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of a product to the users. But what what he Donovan Brown said, DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to end users. Why did he call it as a value to the end users? When you product a quality, when you deliver a quality product, of course you are actually giving some value to your end users. That's why that's what he mean. Let's see some DevOps is a very it's just a process, so it's not single tool, right? So we'll have a couple of different statements. Let us try to understand those statements as well. Okay, so and there's another definition from internet. So what does DevOps means? DevOps is a set of software development processes, practices that combine software development and IT operations to shorten the system development lifecycle, while while delivering features, fixes, and updates frequently in a close alignment with the business objectives. So because of course business objectives keeps changing very often these days. So business objects does not actually remain for longer time, so they keeps changing. So in close alignment with the business objectives and developing the product with the with the alignment of business objective, and also shortening the systems development life cycle. That's about DevOps. So that's about DevOps as per this definition. So of course, the previous definition is exactly right, and this also works for the same DevOps. Let's see one more definition for DevOps. And in DevOps, what we understand the cycle time. We observe and we orient and we decide and we act. That's what we do in DevOps. DevOps become data informed, like because we learn from the past. We actually gather the past data and then we learn, and that's how we become a data informed. And based on that, we will actually move ahead with the past learnings. And we strive for validated learning, and we shorten the uh, cycle time of any product development. And optimized validated learning is another thing. So you see, so the goal would be to shorten the software development life cycle. And it is also combination, like integrating uh, software development team, like a combination of software development team. Like in DevOps, we bring a software development team and quality assurance team and operations teams together. And this area, so this is actually DevOps. So you're actually bringing a software development and quality assurance and operations together to actually to form a DevOps, which helps in reducing, shortening the software development lifecycle time, and also in a close alignment with the business needs. Yeah, we have seen a couple of definitions. Let's see all of them in a summary. And so DevOps in detailed view, what is it? It's a culture that aims to create a better coordination between development, QA, and operations. And the objective of DevOps. So aim of adopting DevOps is to build and release software quickly and maintain applications with a high availability and resiliency. That's actually the objective. And what it's not. So DevOps is not a single tool. So it's not a single tool where you just install and do it. It's a process. And then similar roles. What are the various roles? Similar roles available out there in the market. So nowadays we see. So usually it will be site reliability engineer, cloud ops we call it as. Site reliability engineer is one role that we see, and cloud ops is another role. But nowadays the trend that we are seeing is directly we see a DevOps engineer requirement. So you will see a lot of openings calling with a DevOps engineer. That's it. But earlier it used to be like site reliability engineer or cloud ops. Yeah, so the roles used to be like this, but now you clearly see a DevOps engineer role itself. So yeah, now let us see Azure development practices. First of all, we'll try to understand what is a waterfall approach and what is Agile approach. So waterfall approach is like, in olden days, and like not in olden days, like a couple of years ago, we used to follow this waterfall approach. So in waterfall approach, what happens is you define, analyze, and build and test and deliver. But this process is like, once you decide a product, so there are challenges here. So you work on a product, and it's not something you work on a product until it completes. And by the time it completes, it takes a lot of time, at least 6 months to 1 year time. And after completion of the product, in about 1 year time, when you look back, your business requirement, business need might have already changed. So you're not in waterfall approach, we are not in a close align with the business needs. Because so in waterfall approach, we define all the requirements at start, and we'll analyze and we'll start building, and we'll test and we'll deliver it. It's just one iteration, I would say. You don't do it a frequent iterations, or you don't do it this process like, you don't develop any product often. So it takes 6 months to 1 year time. And by the time it completes, by the time we have the product in hand, and the product will definitely not be in line with the business needs. That is a main drawback in the waterfall method. And if you look at agile approach, so in waterfall approach, it's hard to accurately define requirements is one thing, one challenge, and which can change over the time. and it including during the development as well. And it requires change request and additional cost of delivery as well. And if you look at agile approach, in agile approach, it emphasizes the constantly adaptive planning and early delivery, continuous improvement, and the development methods are based on release and iterations. At the end of each iteration, and we should have tested the working code already. So it's something like this: you prepare a code, you test it, and again, in agile approach, we work with the sprints. Sprint is called as every organization, they'll actually set a sprint. So ideally a sprint is nothing but a 12 14 days time, 2 weeks duration. In a sprint, they'll actually develop a product and they'll test it, and they'll actually then they'll start with the different products. Now what we are seeing is micro architecture. So a product will be divided into uh, micro parts, and then they will actually, like I would say modules, or I would also say parts. And the team will actually work on uh, developing those products, small pieces of a product, and then at the end they'll combine it together. So that's actually the approach now we are actually most of the companies are following. And it is focused on a shorter term outcomes. So we in agile approach, you don't set a goal for a longer term. It's like every sprint or every 2 sprints, the iteration will they'll actually again they will define the business requirements again. So this will help even if there are any business requirement changes, even if there is any change in the initial initial requirement, and you will be able to incorporate those changes in the product. That's the advantage with the agile. So in Agile approach, there are 12 principles in Agile development, and let's see what are they. So first of all, the principle number one is satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. That's one thing. And then welcoming changing requirements. So which is not there in waterfalls, but in Agile you can always incorporate the changes as well. And then deliver a working software frequently, and then work together throughout the project, work together with all other teams throughout the project, and build the projects around motivated individuals, and use a face-to-face conversations, and measure progress through working software. And agile process promotes sustainable development, which includes all the teams, and continuous attention to technical excellence and good design. And then simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work that's not done. And then use self-organizing teams and reflect on how to become more effective. So these are the I'm actually going through only on a high level, because it's kind of a theory, I would say. These are important to know, but these are something uh, and a practical, like when you work on a product. So yeah, that's not, this is just a theory, I would say, but practically you need to implement these things in while you're working in your company. So coming to the tools, let us see the tools in as part of DevOps. What are the tools that I'm going to cover? Okay, so a DevOps course. So we are going to cover all these tools as part of this course. DevOps includes these. So it requires a build. We will actually do with a Terraform. Terraform is one of the widely used product. In most of the organizations, they use Terraform, and it has a lot of advantages compared to its competitors. That's why Terraform is widely used, and we are going to cover Terraform as part of this course. Then coming to in configuring VMs, and we are going to cover Ansible for that. Ansible is going to configure the VMs inside the guest OS. Then for CA and CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. And here in this space, we have Jenkins, we have Bitbucket as well. But in this, we have Jenkins. In this case, in this space, we are going to cover Azure DevOps, which is again widely used product from Microsoft. And for monitoring and alerting, we will actually use Azure Monitor, and this is again from Microsoft. And for source code management, we use a GitHub, and then for source code management, and for version control, we use Git version control. These are the tools. Again, these are from the GitHub is already taken over by Microsoft. So as you know, these again belongs to Microsoft. And on operating systems, we're going to cover Linux operating systems, because Linux is very widely used again. Of course, Windows is also used, but when you see most of the software development projects, you'll see that those are actually based on. In fact, there is a fact, right? Like Fortune, fastest top 500 fastest computers. In that we have Windows as well, but Linux. You'll see a lot of Linux operating systems. So we are going to cover Linux operating system for. Yeah, maybe you might have a doubt like I don't know Linux operating system. Will I be able to learn from this course or not? But don't worry, because we are starting from scratch, and we'll make you understand everything. And yeah, so this is the these are the tools that will be covered as part of the course. But this does not stop here. I will actually take you to the detailed topics that we are going to cover. So for DevOps, mainly, these are the 4 pillars. So if you want to become a successful DevOps engineer, you need to have some good knowledge into these areas. So these 4 will actually make you a successful DevOps engineer. So one is infrastructure as a code, which is a Terraform; software configuration, which is Ansible; CI/CD, which is Azure DevOps; monitoring, which is Azure Monitor. So ideally, for monitoring, you'll have multiple other tools as well. But in our course, we are going to cover Azure Monitor. For source code management, again, another aspect where you have a Git and GitHub, these two knowledge, these two areas, having some knowledge on these two areas also important. So these will help in automating your software, continuous integration and development, automating your, product deployment. And this is about so these 4. So if you don't have, I mean, out of these 4 pillars, even if one pillar is even if you're not strong on one pillar, then definitely you'll experience some challenges. And DevOps is actually a combination of these 4. So these 4 will actually build a strong foundation. So of course, you need to have an infra for a strong foundation. On the infra, you're going to deploy your product, right? And then you also need to have a source code management, which actually maintains all your code. And then on top of that, these 4 tools are going to help you in deploying the product. Okay, so we have seen DevOps oriented concepts and a little like high level, high overview. And we are also, I've also explained what are the topics that we are going to cover in as part of DevOps course. But now let us actually understand a little bit of cloud concepts. So what is cloud? First of all, a cloud is actually a cloud. What is cloud computing? So cloud computing is the delivery of compute services over an internet, and which actually enables faster innovation and flexible resources and economies of scale. What does it mean? So most of us are already using storage, right? Like we use OneDrive, we use Google Drive, we use iCloud, use MI Cloud. So these are all the clouds that we are already using. So what is this cloud all about? So this cloud is actually a storage. So let's say if you take Google Drive. So Google is a company who is providing this some storage drive for you to upload your data in the cloud and to store the data there, not instead of storing on your mobile. So we all have been using cloud since long time. It's just that we did not worked on it. We all have been using cloud since long time. But now cloud has evolved into multiple products, not only storage. So cloud, what we have used is a cloud storage, but there are a lot more than cloud storage. So you have compute. Compute is nothing but a compute is actually a combination of CPU and memory. So let's say if you purchase a laptop, on your laptop you'll have a like, let's example, i5 processor, which is a CPU, and maybe 8 GB of RAM or 16 GB of RAM. That is a memory. A combination of CPU and memory is called as compute in Azure. In general, coming to networking. So if you have a laptop, how will you actually able to access the internet? You'll have definitely inside your laptop on a motherboard, you'll have one network interface card that is responsible for your laptop to communicate with the internet world. So that's called networking. So in networking in other aspect, cloud storage, just now I told you already. Ideally, storage are in different formats. Like, we have a block level storage, we have object level storage. So ideally, the Google Drive, OneDrive, and then MI Cloud, iCloud, all these cloud technologies, they are object storage, where you'll upload the data and then you'll store it there. So that is another type of service from Azure. Then coming to analytics. Analytics is something like analyzing the past. I would say an example. Let's say if you just in a Google you search for something, and sometimes you automatically get some notifications regarding that product. So in the back end, a lot of machine learning algorithms are implemented, and that analysis is going on. So in cloud, you also will get these analytics oriented services as well for you. So to analytics oriented services as well, and you also will be able to, because, and another thing, cloud is actually being provided by few companies, right? One is Microsoft Azure, then AWS, which is from Amazon, then GCP, Google Cloud Platform from Google, then you have IBM Cloud, then you have Oracle Cloud, then you have Alibaba Cloud. So these are the cloud technologies available out there. And so why do you think only very big companies actually started cloud business? Why can't a small company start a cloud business? Anyone has any thoughts? Why can't a small company, maybe uh, I would say any company, why can't other companies start a cloud business? Why only very big companies actually started? Because these companies has a market capitalization about more than $1 trillion, close to. And in fact, Microsoft has more than two trillion dollars of capitalization. Why only big companies start this cloud business? Because cloud business requires investment. So you need to invest the money first, a huge money. Then you can expect the profit later. So in the investment will be in terms of building data centers. A data center is nothing but a physical building. Inside a building, you'll have multiple servers, thousands of servers. Maybe I can say lakhs of servers as well. Depends on a data center size. So these servers actually, first of all, what is server? Server is actually a machine, a computer or a machine which can do a bigger things, I would say. Which can actually, you can run a website on a server, you can run multiple things, you can store the data on a server. And of course, you may ask, can I not run, will I not be able to run a website or store the data on my computer? Of course you can do it, but server is something which you will let it run for 24/7. If you let your laptop run 24/7, it will die in few days itself. That's why I said server is a big machine which is designed to run 24/7, and also which is designed to serve multiple users, be it a website or be it any other application that you develop or install on the uh, configure on the server. Okay, that's our server. So maintaining, like, keeping these multiple servers in a building in multiple racks, ideally, if you're aware of Almara, so I would say, yeah, it's like a rack. In each rack there are multiple servers inserted there, and so like that you'll have multiple racks in a data center spread across the data center. And then, and they'll have wiring connectivity, network connectivity, and all these, and then cooling mechanism as well, because these servers requires cooling for sure. Because in your laptop you have a fan which keeps rotating whenever your laptop gets heat, right? So similarly, servers also require, because they will run for servers will run for 24/7. Those servers also requires cooling. So like, having all these things at one place in a building is called as a data center, I would say. So these cloud companies have multiple data centers deployed or constructed across the globe. If you look at, yeah, we are going to see that in the next slide. Okay, so first of all, let us see top benefits of cloud computing. One is cost. So why I said cost? Because in maybe if you look back 10 years before, when you want, if any company, let's say I want to start a startup, maybe any startup, like I want to start one e-commerce startup example. And to start that business, I need a website to be built. And to build the website, I have to purchase a server because website you will actually host on a server, right? So I have to purchase server. The server cost, your laptop itself will cost you around 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh if you're going with high configuration. So to purchase server actually, as I said, it's a big machine which actually will have more RAM and more CPU cores, and it also requires a storage to give you a better performance. So then you'll actually spend at least a few lakhs, maybe 2 to 4 lakhs amount you'll spend on servers. Usually it will be more than that, but let's assume it's around 2 to 4 lakhs. You'll actually purchase the server and you'll actually keep it in a room in your own building. Let's say if you, because it's a startup company, if you have a building of your own, then you'll store that, you'll keep the server in a room. Then what you're going to do, then that server actually need a cooling mechanism. So you have to completely, if you have studied BTech, and in most of the colleges, not only BTech but any education, most of the colleges actually will have their own servers. So you'll see one small room which is completely transparent, like with a transparent glass, and then completely AC inside the room. So what do you think it is? It is actually a server for your college. Your college also will have a website. That website will be running on one server. That server is hosted, or yeah, maybe it's any other different roles, usually applications or your college application or anything, maybe hosting on there. So that's actually a server room, I call it as. So that server room requires completely cooling, because your server will get heated. If it gets heated, it can go bad. So it has to have some cooling temperature. So like I would say AC, air condition is required for that. So that you have to spend money on that. Then you need some expertise to install operating system on the server, and also to then finally you'll also need some expertise to build a website and then host website there, and also to maintain that website as well once you build everything. So usually this process will completely take about maybe 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs money for you. And also you need one security person who should take care of it. We also need one technical person who should also, you know continuously monitor it. And if a person has to monitor 24/7, then you need at least 3 members. So you'll have to pay salaries for them as well, right? So completely including all these things, whatever I have explained, this will actually take you to about 10 to 15 lakhs or 20 lakhs maybe as an initial investment for just as website to run. I'm only talking about website that you want to run, that's it. And the additional things, yeah, those may vary. Those can include additional pricing, but that is how it was 10 years before. Now let's say the same situation, same website. Again, I want to run an e-commerce. Let's say those days I calculated everything and I decided not to start the startup. And now I'm actually again thinking about, now again I got the same thought, and I want to think how much will it cost if I actually build a website for e-commerce. Let's So nowadays we have a cloud. In cloud, if you want to start a website, it just takes only how does cloud works is, it works as a pay as you go model. What is pay as you go model? So it works as something like this. You have you have a Ola Uber, right now. So if you want to travel from one place to other place, so you just have to pay. You can go by a car, and you just have to pay 100 to 200 rupees as a whatever that, based on the distance that you gone. But if you want to purchase, if you want to travel on the same car, if you want to purchase your own car, then you have to spend at least 10 lakh rupees. It's a huge investment, right? So similarly in cloud, you get services on a rental basis. So a server you can actually rent, and you can pay on hourly basis. So the hourly charges would be around 10 rupees, 12 rupees, 13 rupees on per hour basis. So if I have the same thought, I can actually start building a website right away without actually need to invest much. And again, I just have to pay the money on a month end. So if you calculate for maybe 10 rupees an hour for a one server, and in a month, how many hours do you have? You'll have about 720 hours, right? 720 hours into 10 rupees, how much you're going to spend? 7,200. I'm telling an approximate number. Just with the 7,200 rupees, you're going to run your own e-commerce website on cloud, just with 720 rupees on a monthly basis. Let's calculate, if you invest, if you multiply it to 12 months for 1 year, how much you're going to spend? You're not even going to spend less than 1 lakh rupee, right? So this will allow you to run your e-commerce website very efficiently, and this will also not put you a pressure. Ideally, when you invest huge money, you will be in a pressure to gain that money and make your company as a profitable. So here you will not have that. So you're going to, if your startup idea works well, you're going to continue with the same. If it does not work well, you're not going to lose huge money. So that's the advantage with the cloud business. Not only startups, but even Fortune 500 companies, all Fortune 500. What do I mean by Fortune 500 companies? The companies who gets a huge profit. So based on the profit basis, the Fortune 500 companies will be actually decided. So those companies will be are also using cloud business because they get things done in cloud efficiently and effectively and economically. So that's the advantage every company is getting. That is why every company is moving towards cloud. That's why we are learning here, because cloud has future. Next 5 to 10 years, you will not have any problem if you learn cloud. So that's where we are. So that's how you get a cost benefit. Global scale, as I said, only very big companies actually doing this cloud business, and these companies will invest billions of dollars for as an investment, and they have built data centers across the globe. You can sit in India, in Hyderabad, and you can create your website in US without even traveling to US. So that kind of flexibility you've got with the cloud, because these cloud companies have built data center across the globe. So you can sit here and you can build a website in US, which is not possible earlier 10 years before. Okay. And the performance, let's say you have maybe 1,000 or 10,000 users in US, and if you build a website in India, of course you'll not, those 10,000 or 20,000 users will not get a great performance, because your website is here, it has to travel over the network, and they need to access it there, so they will get some issues. But if you build a website in US itself, so which is closer to your end users, that gives better performance to them, better experience of website browsing to them. Security, again, the point is, all these are big companies. These companies again will invest billions of dollars for security, because security is the main key thing for every company to gain trust from their customers. So if any cloud business, their cloud data is breached, if you get any news as such, will you really use that cloud business? No, right? So for every cloud company, security is the first priority. So that's why they'll invest huge money. And if you open a startup, you will definitely not be in a position to invest huge money to get a best class security. So again, the cloud will give you that benefit again, without with a normal pay. You're going to get a best class security. Speed. Speed is another important aspect, because in as I said, back in 10 years ago, if you want to build a website, you'll have to actually not only just investing money, but also to procure that server, and to configure it, to set up your server room, and to hire a technical person to install. So this will at least take 1 to 2 weeks time to build a website. But with cloud, you're not going to spend that huge amount of time. Within an hour, you will be able to build your own website, so that it is that fast. And then productivity. So productivity with the cloud, you don't really have to worry about the back-end physical hardware. Let's say there is some disk failure or any hardware failure, you're not going to worry about that, because Microsoft will take care of that. Microsoft has their own team who is taking care of the data center. They call it as data center team. They are actually going to look at each and every server. If any server is went bad, they are going to replace it then and there immediately. The reliability, and Microsoft, Azure also has that backup and disaster recovery, for a reliability purpose. So reliability is nothing but running a business is okay, but you should also have some reliability mechanism. Even if in case of, let's say, there is some flood happen in one place, maybe let's consider Chennai. So in that time, of course, your data center will be completely down, and your website will be down, and you'll not be able to access it. Okay, that's a flood, so that's a natural disaster, fine. It happened. But once that is secured, later on, how do you actually bring your data or bring your website back to online? So your website is down, that is fine. But once the natural disaster is over, how are you going to bring your data or bring your website back to online? So that's called reliability. So you should have a mechanism, even if there is some issue happens, you should be able to bring the situation back to normal. That's called reliability. So that reliability is available in Azure. Not only in Azure, every cloud has this mechanism. So in cloud, there are three types of clouds. One is public cloud. Public cloud is something, the name itself is self-explanatory. It's something used by general public, everybody. Example, Azure, AWS, GCP, Oracle Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, all these clouds are public clouds itself. Then private cloud. Private cloud is private to you. So I talked about like back in 10 years before, if you want to maintain a website, you will build your own, in your own building, you'll actually set up a server room. That is called as private cloud. It is private to you. No one can access it. No other customers can interfere in your cloud, in your server setup. That's called private cloud. Hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud is another thing which gives more flexibility. Hybrid cloud is actually a combination of both public cloud and private cloud. If you see cloud model comparison, if you see the advantages, what are the advantages you get in each of these cloud business? So public cloud, no capital expenditure is required. You don't have to invest any money. The applications can be quickly provisioned. You can quickly create your websites and deprovision. You can also quickly delete if you no longer require that. The organizations pay only for what they use. They're not going to pay any additional money. They're only going to pay what they use. So that is again on a hourly basis, not on a monthly basis. So let's say you purchase a server, and you used it for maybe 3 hours. You're only going to pay for 3 hours, not for entire day. And in private cloud, hardware must be purchased from startup and maintenance. So you have to invest the money first of all. In not the initial example I told you, if you want to build a website, you have to procure the hardware first. You have to purchase the hardware. So that is the initial investment. And if you see the example, the best example for this is a car. In the cars, if you want to own a car, you'll actually invest the money. Instead, if you just want to rent a car, you don't have to invest. You just have to, whenever you need it, you just use it. And organization have complete, but in this case organizations have complete control. So you because it's owned by you, again there are multiple examples for this. It's like you are actually renting an apartment, and that's actually like a cloud. So you're staying there, you're paying for it, and otherwise you're actually purchasing the flat itself. So that's your own flat. So that gives you more flexibility, more control to you. Whatever you want, you can do it. If you're renting some other's apartment, so of course you'll not have that control. So if you want to I mean anything that you want to do, you have to take a permission from your owner, right? So the example that's about it. And then organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Yeah, they are responsible for maintenance. So if you own a car, of course, you also have to do that maintenance, right? So you have regular servicing, you have to do it. But if you just rent Ola, Uber, so you don't have to worry about that. So they'll take care of that, right? Hybrid cloud. So this gives more flexibility. Hybrid cloud is something like you're owning a car, at the same time you're also renting it whenever you need. So you're owning a car, but you don't want to use for smaller distances. You want to, whenever you go for longer drives, you'll use your own car. But whenever you're going traveling within the city, you prefer to rent, you prefer to book Ola, Uber. So that's a hybrid cloud. That of course, for that you are investing some money, and also you're actually paying ongoing charges, but that gives more flexibility to you. So that's about hybrid cloud. So here it gives most flexibility, and the organizations determine where to choose their own applications. So they can run the application either in their on-premises or in the Azure cloud. And then organizations control security, compliance, and legal requirements. So all these things will be in their control. And in cloud, there are again 3 different types of services. So earlier we have discussed about different types of clouds. Now in public cloud, there are 3 different types of services. One is IaaS. infrastructure as service, then PaaS, platform as service, then SaaS, software as service. In IaaS, so ideally your IT architecture will look like this. It has these layers. Your IT architecture has these layers. So this is on premises. This is private cloud. This is actually public cloud. What you see in white. This is public cloud. This is private cloud. So in private cloud, these IT architecture layers like storage, networking, compute, virtual machines, and operating system, runtime, applications, and data access. So these layers will be completely managed by customer, which means we. And if you see the other one, the white color one, here this is a public cloud. In public cloud, you see whatever you see in a blue, they will be managed in IaaS. These three, storage, networking, compute, will be managed by Microsoft, and rest will be managed by customer, which means we. And in PaaS, until runtime, until here, will be managed by Microsoft. Only applications and data will be managed by customers. In IaaS, the best example is virtual machine, VMs. In PaaS, the best example is a web application, web app. Here you only configure you'll actually have a code, you'll deploy the code, and then you'll run your website. So you'll not have you don't worry, you don't bother about the underlying hardware or virtual machine and operating system. Just you so ideally a developer will use a web app, right? So developer will develop a code, then he will deploy, and a DevOps engineer or operation team will deploy that code onto a web app that will actually run your website. So but you'll not at all bother about the underlying operating system or underlying hardware. So that will be taken care by Microsoft. Now coming to SaaS, software as service. In SaaS only you'll have control only on data and access. The example for SaaS is O365 and your Gmail, YouTube, all these applications are SaaS only, because these applications are something not developed or not owned by you. These are developed by companies like Google, Amazon, all these are Microsoft. O365 belongs to Microsoft. They develop the product, they'll give it to you on a license basis. You have to purchase some money to get your O365 license, like E3, E5 licenses. Then you'll start using O365 benefits like Word, Excel, all these benefits, Word, Excel, Outlook, all these benefits, Skype, Teams, again, separate license. Yeah, so that's how this works. That is actually SaaS product. So you will only have access on your data. Let's say you're using O365 Outlook email box, you'll only have access on the Outlook emails, the data, whatever you are actually using it. But you'll not have access on how your Outlook product has to be. Like that is something developed by Microsoft, and you're just using it. You'll not have any control on that. So that's about the SaaS products. So as part of DevOps, right? We are going to cover IaaS and PaaS. SaaS is something we are not covering because SaaS is something you will not have anything much to do here. So because the companies will develop the product and they'll sell it to you. So you'll pay some money and you'll use it. But in IaaS and PaaS, in IaaS we are going to cover virtual machines, storage, networking. In PaaS we're going to cover web apps. So how do you develop a code, and then how do you actually deploy it to run a website? So these topics we're going to cover as part of this course. Yeah, so I think previously I stopped my discussion on regions concept like data centers. So I said all these big companies have multiple data centers spread across the globe. That's what I said. But if you see the numbers, Microsoft actually has 60 plus regions. Microsoft has 60 plus regions across the globe. These are all so whatever you see, these are all the dots that you see. They're all the data centers across the globe, spread across the globe. And you see different colors also. So if you see the completely blue dot, that represents the region. In these regions, you'll have data center, at least one data center in these regions. And you see another a blue dot inside it. You have one small white dot, white dot that actually represents the availability zones. Availability zones, nothing but so these will have single data center at least. So single data center, but these will have at least 3 data centers, 3 separate buildings in the city. So this one and this one, all these have 3 data centers at minimum. And similarly, if you see the other one, this one, represents the announced availability zones. So this is announced but not yet actually publicly available for use. And this is announced region with availability zones. You see other icon, West US 3, these are announced regions, but regions with availability zones, but these are not yet available, publicly available. So as of now, publicly available ones are this one and this one, these two icons. So you see in India, if you look at in India, you have South India, which is Chennai. You have Central India, which is Pune. Then you have West India. I think this is maybe Kolkata or Mumbai, I guess. So, and in Central India, you see one icon. What does this icon means? This icon means announced availability zones. So what they are saying is they have announced availability zones. So this South India will only have one single data center in Chennai, and in West India, they're going to have one single data center. In Central India also, right now, we only have one single data center, but they said that they announced availability zones, which means they are going to add additional 2 more data centers in Central India. That's what they're saying. You have in Australia, I mean, you can actually look at this diagram. So this will let you know that a lot of regions across the globe, 60 plus regions in fact. But this is something we have been hearing 60 plus since 1 year, but latest news is that they actually have added another 10 more regions. Now maybe the number will change, 70 plus regions, and in fact they added more regions in Asia itself, Asia. And these 60 plus regions actually spreading across, representing 140 countries. 140 countries. So let's say in India you have 3 regions, right? So in Sri Lanka you don't have any region. So Sri Lanka will actually leverage either India's data center or Malaysia or Southeast Asia's data center. And also in India you have multiple neighbors, right? You have Nepal, you have Bhutan. So if there is any company there, so they're going to use these data centers as of now. So that's how these 60 regions are spreading, representing 140 countries. So these regions are made up of one or more data center in a close proximity, and these will provide a flexibility and scale to reduce your customer latency. And also these will provide data residency with a comprehensive compliance offering, because ideally every government will have their own, every country will have their own, compliance thing. So because right now, if you see, India has actually requested MasterCard company to store MasterCard users' data information in India only, not in US. So that's actually one of the regulatory compliance requirement of the India they have introduced recently. So every Indian customer's data has to be stored within India itself. That's the requirement. But MasterCard does not have any data center in India. So, but what they have to do, they can leverage any of this cloud business. They can actually store the Indian users' data in India itself. So that gives some additional job opportunities to Indian users, and also will give some business to India. And also your data, Indians' data will store in India itself. So that's recently our government has bought this rule. So that is one of the example. So in fact, China has this rule since long time. Complete data of Chinese has to be stored in China itself. So like in UK, you have a GDPR, another rule, right? The data again. So every country will have their own set of compliance rules. So every cloud business, be it AWS or Azure or GCP or any cloud business, has to obey with those rules. They have to actually obey with these compliance rules. That's how the business run. Now let's see, why are we learning? Because I told you in cloud you have multiple cloud technologies. We have AWS, which is there since long time. It started in 2006. Now we are in 2021. It's more than 15 years of business for AWS. It's there since long time. And Azure has just started in 2010. But 2010 to 14, Azure has a completely, they have a different model, which we call it as ASM, Azure Service Manager model. That's a completely a flop model. So it has a lot of drawbacks. And then they have actually redesigned it. Then they started Azure Resource Manager model, which is in 2014 when Satya Nadella joined as a CEO. So since then, Azure actually being used. So AWS started in 2006. Azure actually started in 2014, I would say, with a decent Azure product. There is a 8 years of gap from AWS to Azure start time, if you see, and AWS has gained a lot of customers. So in market right now, 30% share is being held by AWS. And Azure actually started business, but they started a little late, 8 years, but not, I would say not too late. And but they gained close to 22 or 24% of market business already till today. 24% out of 100. So 24% business is already gained by Azure within a very short span of time. So when they started 2014, so it's been 7 years, but like AWS has spent 15 years just with the off span. They were able to get 24% of market share, which is I would say very fast growing cloud technology right now. And GCP has started in 2017, which is very, very late. So right now GCP is holding a very less share, market share. We're going to see those numbers. But why are we learning Azure? So if you see the trend, here you can see the trend. This is Azure, the one that you see in this color. And the one that you see in this color is AWS, and the blue color is in cloud, the general cloud, including all other general clouds. And this has been studied. This is taken from an article. Okay, so this is not something I have drawn it. Okay, from 2010 onwards, if you study the cloud, if you look at a cloud business, how is it doing? What are the demand for cloud skills? Cloud, a person who has a cloud skill, what is the demand of that? So usually, as I said, AWS started in 2006, so but Azure started a little late. But since when Azure actually started growing is 2014 later. So from here onwards, you see, and if you see from 2017, it is very steep. And now, right now, in fact, it has already crossed AWS in terms of demands and skills. So in 2019 itself. And right now, Azure, a person with Azure skills is preferred compared to a person with AWS skills. Of course, if you have Azure plus AWS skills, that is another, that gives that will be top priority, I would say, if you have Azure plus AWS. But a person with Azure skills will be preferred compared to a person with AWS skills right now. So because Azure skills has more demand compared to AWS skills, that's how this has evolved. And let's see how Azure has done during pandemic, especially because pandemic is that's a once in lifetime that you will go through. And so during pandemic, how these companies have done. So Azure, if you look at Azure in the pandemic time, it has actually grown 15% positive. If you look at AWS, it is actually down negative, 17% negative. Overall cloud business is 30% negative, but Azure is still 15% up. So that's another reason that you must learn Azure. And as you know, so the companies that you see here, out of Fortune 500 companies, 95% of companies are using Azure. And I also should say that these 95% customers are using Azure, but some of the customers, they use multi-cloud. They not only use Azure, but they also use AWS. So that is also a fact. But each and every customer is using 95% out of 500, close to 475 companies are using Azure, which is a very huge thing, right? Yeah, that's about these topics. Yeah, now we have done with the theory, and I'm going to show you the curriculum, what we are going to cover as part of this course in detail. Okay. So in operating system, we are going to learn Linux, Linux file system, navigation, editors, package, processes, and then service management. In cloud, we are going to cover Azure, and in Azure we are going to see account management, resource groups, IAMs, VNets, VMs, DNS, and Azure CLI mainly. And then scripting, we are going to cover Bash scripting. In this, we are going to cover structures, conditionals, and loops, variables, and arguments. In infrastructure as a code, we are going to cover Terraform, installation and configuration, creation, deletion, updating infra on Azure. And service in source code management, Git, GitHub, we are going to cover Git installation, configuration, tracking, versioning, branching, and then merges and Git repos and authentication and PR. These are all topics we are going to cover as part of source code management. This does not stop here. Let's see a few more. So, and software configuration, we are going to cover Ansible, installation configuration, and ad hoc commands, modules, playbooks, and variables inventory. And in continuous integration, we are going to see Azure. We are going to cover Azure DevOps, CI/CD, ADO overview, Azure DevOps overview, agents, integrations, jobs, stages, pipelines, artifacts, and approvals. These are all we are going to cover as part of Azure DevOps. In containers, we are going to cover Docker. So mainly, we're going to cover installation of installation configuration, containers, images, and building volumes and image registry. I would say Docker file. Then monitoring, we are going to cover Azure Monitor, configuration, setting up alerts and action groups. These are all the topics that we are going to cover as part of this course. Now, you might have questions, some questions, right? Let me cover this slide, then I'll take up the questions. What should you what you should have to join this course? You just need a laptop with a good configuration, minimum configuration with a system rights, minimum 4 GB RAM, and i3 or quad core processor also fine. Quad core will be little slow, but i3 should be fine. A laptop with system administration rights, 4 GB RAM, i3 processor. That is a must thing. And you also should have some Azure free tier subscription. Microsoft offers free tier subscription for 28 days time, and they'll give you 14,000 rupees, Indian rupees, as a credit. But you must have a credit card to actually register for this, subscribe for this, to avail the free trial. But our course will actually last for about 60 days. So you need to plan for some backup subscription as well, because 28 days won't be sufficient. So in that case, you must have another credit card to create another free tier, or we should plan that backup subscription. So, but of course, I would not suggest you to go ahead and create right now. I will tell you when you should create it. So then you can start creating that from then onwards, start using it. And other services. So you must have GitHub, Azure DevOps, Docker Hub, Freenom. Freenom is for DNS purpose, free DNS. This is optional if you. I mean, this is free DNS itself. If you can get a domain here, you can purchase it. You'll get it for 12 months duration. So, but this is optional. But you'll get it for free. You can try it. And in software, we need to install Git Bash, Visual Studio Code Editor, Azure CLI. These are the. I'm going to explain how you need to install. So don't worry, don't really have to install before you start the course itself. As part of course, I'm going to explain how to install. I'm going to show you the demo as well. On a personal side, what you need to have. So you should have good appetite for learning. So you should have some enthusiasm to learn, and also quality time for the class and practice. You should spend some quality time for class and practice, because if you just sit on in a sofa and if you just learn, maybe if you watch this training in a mobile or iPad, that does not help. So I want you guys to join the course from a laptop, and whenever I do something, I also request you also to practice it parallelly, simultaneously if possible, and then you can ask questions. That is important. So ask questions, spend quality time. So whenever you learn, that's the important thing. And active participation is important. So you should not skip, or you should not just skip. Yeah, if you skip, you may lose those topics, and you may not be able to watch them again. And of course, recordings will always be available. But if you don't follow through it, so then you'll not actually gain the knowledge in a proper way. So that's why active participation is important. And skills, any prerequisites? No prerequisites. You don't really need any prerequisite. We're going to cover whatever the topics that I have explained. We are going to cover all those topics from basics. So the agenda is to bring someone who is not aware. I would say a college hire from that from a college hire to bring up to a speed, and then take him to the Azure DevOps course and cover complete advanced topics as well while we move on with the chain. Okay, so finally, what are the takeaways from this demo? So this course is designed for both freshers and for those who are already working on IT. And this course covers wide variety of processes and technologies. So I've shown you the tools already. And this course aims to equip you with the right amount of theoretical and practical knowledge of cloud, which is Azure, and DevOps practices and tools. And while this course is offered a lot to learn and upskill, it's your enthusiasm that actually to enthusiasm to learn and practice that takes you to the next level. So that's about this demo, guys. Any questions that you have, I'll be happy to answer now. No questions?